So now let's move on to the main question for today. So for today, we'll be looking at how to balance a chemical equation. And there's only one very important step that you need to take note of, that in the chemical equations, in order for it to be balanced, you need to make sure that the number of atoms for each element must be equal on both sides of the equations. So what do I mean by that? Never mind, we'll be going through some examples to let you know what does it mean. So let's look at some examples here. So I would like to highlight one key important thing. So in the chemical equations, we normally use an arrow instead of an equal sign. Why? Because you want to represent there's a change in the chemicals before and after. That's why you use an arrow, not an equal sign. This is not math. So let's look at question number 1. So in question number 1a, we have reactants on the left side of the equation. So what does reactant means? It means that these are the chemicals used to react, and after that, through this reaction, they will form a product. So these are called the reactants. And on the right side of the equation, we call them the product. Why? Because they are being produced. So let's look at question 1a. So we have sodium reacting with chlorine molecule, and after that, they form sodium chloride. So how do we balance this chemical equation? So there's only one key thing you need to take note, that the number of atoms for sodium on the left side of the equation must be the same as the number of atoms for sodium on the right side of the equation. So if there's only one sodium on the left side, and we must have only one sodium on the right side. So if there are two chlorine atoms on the left side of the equation, we must also make sure that there's only two chlorine atoms on the right side of the equation. So if you look at this equation here, right? Sodium, we have only one sodium atom, and on the right side, we have only one sodium atom. So this one is equal already. So let's look at the next one. But this chlorine molecule, there are two chlorine atoms. So in this case, we must make sure that on the right side of the equation, there must be two chlorine atoms as well. So what do we do? So in this case, you need to have two sets of sodium chloride. So I have two sets of sodium chloride. So once I have two sets of sodium chloride, it means that in a pictorial diagram, there are two sets of sodium chloride, two sets. So in order to make sure that my sodium are balanced as well on the left side of the equation, so what do we need to do? So in this case, I must also have two sets of sodium atom on the left side of the equation. So in this case, I'll put a 2 over here as well, and my equation is balanced. So normally for balancing equation, if you look at step 3, balance the equation by placing number in front of the formula of the substance in the equation. And the number 1 is not written. Just like math, you don't write 1 when you say 1x. So we don't write 1 in the equation. So these numbers, right, what does it mean? They represent how many sets of each reactants and product. So this number here in front of the reactants and product, they represent the number of sets of each reactant and product.